Welcome to the Backrank podcast, Grandmaster Insights from Behind the Lines. At some point, every chess player hits a plateau. Your rating stops increasing, and no matter how much you study, nothing seems to click. Today, we are talking about why that happens, and more importantly, how to break through it. But let me ask you first, what's the worst plateau you hit in your chess career?
Yeah, I actually had quite a big one. Um, I was even considering quitting chess after dedicating most of my life to it. So I barely became a grandmaster, and at that point, everything started falling apart. So I dropped below 2,500, even though whenever I played tournaments, I felt like I was not playing any worse or sometimes even better than my opponents who were higher rated, who were 2,600 plus. And I had that period for maybe 2 years where everything was just going down. I wasn't winning any tournaments and I was playing somewhat well, but then every single time, I would come short, every important moment, I would find a way to mess up, no matter what. And then the cool part is that after I um, overcame that, I somehow managed to have the best year of my career where I won almost every tournament I've played and gained the most amount of rating anyone above 2,500 gained that year. So it's interesting how it was the worst moment, the lowest moment, after which came the best moment of my career.
And how old were you when you became a Grandmaster?
I think it was 18, and I had that period for maybe from when I was 18 to almost 20.
Well, that must have been very frustrating for you because that's the period of life where you make important decisions, whether you pursue, a professional chess career or you go to college and you pick a different path, in life. You said that you thought about quitting chess. I mean, how seriously did you consider that? Did you think that you were doing something wrong in chess, in studying chess?
I think I was just confused. The whole period is very blurry, so I have no idea. I think I was confused. I wasn't sure why. Like I wasn't able to articulate why the things were happening the way they were happening. Now I understand why, but back then, many things felt off. I didn't know why. I didn't know how to fix them, and then magically they all got resolved on their own in a sense. And I didn't even understand how. But now again, in hindsight, I understand what I did and understand how all of these things happened.
But you did have to do some right things and change your approach a little bit, or
Yeah, for sure. So my main issue was not chess related. So it was mostly a mental part of my game that really struggled. So that was one thing. The second thing was in a way losing interest. So basically not trying my best in every single game and every single move. So that of course makes a huge difference as well. So I think for our viewers, it's important to understand that a plateau doesn't always mean that your chess sucks or that your chess is not improving. It's you could be staying at the same rating or even be going down, and your chess may still be improving. But the reason for the struggle is basically some mental problem, or maybe you tilt too much, or maybe there is a confidence issue, or maybe there is some other issue. So a lot of the times it's not the chess problem that keeps you down.
There can be thousands of different reasons why a plateau may happen, and I don't think any chess player can avoid them. Um, do you think, Evgeny, your plateau, your worst plateau, was avoidable?
Um, I mean, it's a very broad question. So I think if you like if everything in your life like is aligned, like everything is in perfect place and everything is going well, I don't really see why you would have a plateau. Like you would have some periods of time where like the rating is not maybe like increasing that much, but like you're still gonna be like improving. And again, I think it's only fair to say that you have a plateau if it happens in a long period on a long time frame and when you're playing a lot. So like if you're not playing much, okay, like you cannot really call that because you're just not playing much. So I think it shouldn't really happen if everything is aligned. But for me, it happened. So, and as I said, like it was all the mental reasons, like um, that pretty much prevented me from being like extremely confident while I played. So it's like I always had these like thoughts in the back of my mind that like, oh, I'm gonna like find a way to lose. And I don't know, like they would just come up out of nowhere. Like I wouldn't be able to control them, but like these things would pop up. And I think the main reason why that happened to me was because my focus was on the wrong things. Meaning that um I was thinking too much about the result of the game, about the result of the tournament, and about prize money of the tournament. So that was one of the main things that was adding like that additional pressure. And I would basically have thoughts like this where, let's say I'm playing last few rounds, like, oh, if I win these 2 games, I can get that place, I can get that prize money and things like that. And that what it does is that it takes away the focus from the present, from the actual position you're playing at the moment, and puts it on some, random thoughts about the future. And then you're no longer able to focus or perform at your best.
And the interesting thing is that you don't have to be a grandmaster to experience the same thing, right? Like you don't have to think about the money and the first place in the tournament. You may be hitting some rating goal, like you may be rated close to 1900, and you know that if you win a couple more games, you're gonna cross that barrier that you wanted to cross for a long time, and then suddenly you lose 7 games in a row, and once again you are very far from that barrier. And that's the exact same thing, right? You care about the results a little bit too much, about the outcome of that specific game a little bit too much, and that sets your goal once again further from where you are.
Well, and even if you do all the things right in your studying, then you will still have periods of time where your rating won't increase. And we probably should define what a plateau is.
Mhm.
But there will be periods of time where it seems like you're completely stuck, and every chess player has had it. Mm. And
To be
your skill may be improving, but the thing is that in chess, I mean, the only way we can actually measure the strengths objectively is the rating, unless I mean somebody else, like a mentor or a coach, can actually explain that your skill is improving and can actually show it by um, demonstrating the games. But most chess lovers they measure their improvement by rating, and rating sometimes your rating will be stuck for a certain period of time. And that's totally fine. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's very important to make the distinction there. So by plateau, I really mean that you actually get stuck and you're no longer improving, or you cannot, or you have certain issues that you're unable to overcome, and because of that, you're unable to improve. And rating is not the only thing that indicates that. So um now on about like how people like measure their improvement, yes, I agree, like they pay too much attention to the rating, and I don't think it's right. Even for amateur players, they could still feel whether they're getting better or not, regardless of the rating. They could still feel like they're getting better positions, like they're promoting more advanced ideas and things like that, right? So, for example, like for me, like I didn't really think about the rating that much. I was just seeing how I was able to play really well, and then I wasn't able to focus at some from certain moments of the game, and then I would just mess up no matter what. And I felt like I should be like 2600 already, but I'm like 2480, and I mess up every single time an important moment happens. So yeah, I think for our viewers is that the way you should approach this is by your overall feeling as well. Meaning, so you don't only measure whether something is going wrong by rating, because again, as we discussed in previous episodes, the rating is very volatile. It may fluctuate to 300 points pretty much at all levels within like a few months. So even if you're thinking that you got a plateau and you want to like base it on the rating, you got to wait for like a year maybe, or at least like half a year for the rating to give you like a meaningful insight. And that's considering that you're playing a lot of games. But also, it's not the only thing, as I said. Like, you should listen to yourself, right? Like, you should listen um, to your like inner feelings about how you are as a player. Like, do you feel like you're getting better? Like, do you feel like you're making better moves? Do you feel like now you see like some ideas that were more advanced that you were not able to see before? And that part matters as well. And I agree with you, Misha, that like a coach definitely could help you like more to understand that part. Because, you know, most people tend to like downplay, from my experience. Like when they think of chess, they rely too much on the rating and then downplay what they're capable of.
But also, there are some people like, okay, arguably my biggest plateau that I've ever hit is right now. I'm a grandmaster and I'm never gonna get better. I'm never gonna get much better. Like, the only way I can get better is by dedicating way more time to chess, like to playing and actually like working on my game and traveling to tournaments and playing online and everything. And that's what I'm not going to do. Again, we should probably separate between online chess and live chess. Let's say we talk about online. I can definitely get my rating improved online over time if I play more, right? If I develop, because by playing more, I can develop this timing instincts a little bit better, get in shape, get sharper, and those things happen. But I'm never gonna like jump on a completely new level, because I'm well aware that I'm also not going to dedicate all this time to that. And I'm sure that there are some people, some people have been playing chess for only a year and they don't know where they are at their journey, really, right? Like, they may feel like they can actually get, another like thousand points, and in the next few years. Or there are some other people that are like me that have been playing chess for many, many years, 10, 15, 20 years, or even more since their childhood, that are at the level where they are at right now and that are not improving. And maybe they want to improve. And I think these are two different cases almost,
Hmm.
in
Well,
terms of, yeah,
to
in terms of your attitude.
but to be fair, you don't put the same amount of effort into chess compared to, let's say, 10 years ago. So to me, a plateau is when you put same effort but your skill doesn't improve,
That
right?
So I agree with that, and I agree with that. So it's important for your goals, for your expectations to meet, what you are doing, right? Like, if my expectations were to be the highest rated player on chess.com right now, I definitely need to spend, at the very least, way more time playing. I probably need to play, many, many games to like reevaluate essentially where I'm at. If I'm not doing that, I'm definitely not meeting my expectations. So, but I don't have those expectations, and that's why I'm not having those issues. So that's one of the things, right? Like, if you're just embracing the game of chess and you just like to play and you like where you are, that's fine. But if you like to get better and you don't play that much, right? If you only play like a few games um, every other day or every other weekend, probably that's not enough.
That's definitely not enough.
Hmm.
Well, I actually had two really big plateaus in my chess career. And the first one I hit when I was 13, and I just crossed 2000. And it lasted, my first big plateau lasted for at least 3 years. Like I was stuck between 2000 and 2100, and that was very frustrating. I was playing a lot of tournaments, but I just couldn't improve.
Why do you think that happened?
Well, I think there were a couple of reasons for that. Well, there were actually many reasons for that. I mean, first of all, my way of approaching the game wasn't right. Basically, I mean, I did the right things as well. I was playing alone over the board tournaments, and that was definitely helpful. But at the same time, I was doing a lot of unnecessary stuff, like studying openings too much, like not playing online, basically not playing enough games. So there was definitely a mental part to that as well. I mm, underestimated myself. Overall, my studying method wasn't effective, and that I think was the biggest reason for my first plateau. And it's actually very difficult to figure out whether you just have that natural phase of being stuck at at a certain rating point, and or you're doing something wrong. For example, when Magnus hit his big plateau at I don't remember how old he was, but he was almost 2600 and his rating dropped 50 points. But he kept doing all the things that he believed in. While how can you actually know whether you're doing everything right or you're doing something wrong? And if you if you hit a plateau, or you just accumulate your knowledge, and the jump will happen soon. So how can you know? It's very difficult to figure it out.
Yeah, but
And
you see, like you can have like personal conviction, so you just like believe in it and you know it to be true. Like you don't have to understand why. Like I'm pretty sure Magnus didn't know why, but he and his family believed that that was the right thing to do, and that was just a moment to overcome. And the second thing is a good coach. So
yeah,
like if you have a good coach, that's exactly their job, right? So that's what people confuse about coaching a lot. So a coach is not someone who gives you like a lecture. A coach is not someone who tells you, oh, like this is this line and then this line you play this way. Of course, there is, some part of that, but it's not the main part of coaching. So the coaching should mostly focus on these things, right? So how do you overcome these issues? So a coach should notice certain issues in your play, like certain bad habits that you're developing, and help you get rid of them before they, become a bigger issue. Coaches should be able to notice those mental issues right when they're forming and do something about them. So that's the actual, job of a coach, and not just, doing the lectures.
absolutely. Yeah, and I was stuck for 3 years, between 2000 and 2100, and then I quit chess for 1 year. And randomly after that, I played the Ukrainian championship under 18 years old, and I took the second place. Life works in mysterious ways. And like how how did that happen? To be honest with you, to this day, I have no idea why that happened. And after that, I finally broke like 2100 barrier. And after that, I also had several more plateaus. And actually, the second biggest plateau lasted for 7 years. So that's quite a lot.
Is it
And
still
what
happening?
was the rating?
So I was stuck between 2300 and 2400. So once I finally broke through my first big plateau, I had this happy period for like a year, and then I got depressed again. Basically, I mean, I got depressed because of my chess, not the other way around. And yeah, so I quickly increased my rating to 23, and I quickly scored 2 international master norms. And my rating was actually almost 2400 when I was like 17, 18, and I had 2 international master norms. So I was very close to, completing all the requirements needed for the international master title. But then, like, nothing happened. I couldn't improve. Like, no matter how much I tried, no matter how much I played, I couldn't improve my skill. I even dropped below 2300. And yeah, that basically lasted. To be fair, it lasted for like 4 years, 4 years. And then the pandemic started, and I naturally stopped playing chess, and I focused on other things. And the only a few years later, I actually completed my final norm and broke 2400. I bet many our viewers, I mean, I hope not, but some of them definitely experience the same thing. Some are stuck at the same level for years. What are the indicators that you basically hit a plateau and you're doing something wrong? How can you tell if you don't have a coach, if you don't have a mentor?
Yeah, so as we already briefly discussed, is that the rating can give you obviously a picture, like the trend, not, whether you drop or get 100 points next month. So if you see like in the next 6-12 months, like the trend is not up, or it's even tilting down, then maybe something is off. Getting a coach for that would be useful. If it's a good coach, they could tell you. If they're not a good coach, they could make things worse, to be fair. Then the personal feeling, like you're feeling like you're getting better or not, many like mental aspects that you could be noticing. So there could be many different indicators, but typically people can tell, like they could feel like something is off.
Yeah, but that's actually a good time frame. Yeah, 6 to 12 months. Because, I mean, of course, it depends a lot. But let's say if you're stuck at the same level rating level for 3 months, it doesn't
Yeah, it
necessarily
doesn't
mean that
doesn't
you hit a
doesn't mean
plateau, anything. So don't
Again,
fix what's not broken.
yes, but to be fair, it could be you could be stuck. So it's like the rating just doesn't, like, you cannot rely for that for an accurate picture. Like you could be doing all the wrong things and your rating could be improving, and then eventually you're gonna get stuck, and then from there you will never improve anymore. So like the rating doesn't really give you like a full picture. That's why like looking at those like longer term trends is a bit more useful, but still like it doesn't really give you like a full picture. So like it's a tricky thing. Like it's a really tricky thing. And I would say from my experience, um, most of those plateaus, they come from these mental, psychological issues that are created over time and reinforced over time. And fixing those typically brings you the best results. So what I could see, especially in kids, and that's why it's even more telling, is that to be really good at chess, you need to have a crazy amount of confidence. Like you should be so confident to the point where it feels delusional. And what I see in kids tournaments is that the kid who is the most confident and the most delusional wins no matter what. Obviously, unless the difference in level is so huge where it doesn't matter anymore. So like I could see how very strong, talented players that have some issues with confidence in all of these important moments, they just mess up, do something stupid, and then the confident kid takes advantage of that and wins the tournament. So that's why also you cannot really judge in that's specifically for kids. You cannot really judge the improvement too much based on the results in these kids tournaments. Like someone could be actually already like 2 levels above chess wise, and they could be underperforming in these tournaments just because they are struggling with that confidence. So for adults, it's similar. From my experience with like hundreds of people, um, almost every single one of them had some sort of like psychological blocks that needed to be overcome. Um, like literally almost all of them. And the other thing that I noticed is that I have a student who is a kid and he no longer has any of these issues. And even though his level is, I think, a bit below where his rating currently is online, but he's still able to maintain that rating comfortably just because of that crazy, like delusional confidence and just not being affected by any of these mental things at all. Like guy just plays exactly the same way against anyone. Doesn't matter the rating, doesn't matter anything. So it's like a robot in a sense, and that allows him to come back from completely lost positions and do all of these things. So I would say like if you were to start somewhere, checking your confidence levels would really help. If you're not confident, what it does to you is that you're just not able to see the good moves past a certain point. So what I mean by this is that it affects your perception. And if you're not, if deep inside you don't believe that something is possible, you will never ever see it. So like you don't believe that it's possible that your opponent could blunder from their winning position. The moment they blunder, you will never see it. And the confidence and all of these mental things, in a lot of ways, they shape perception, and they are basically directly responsible for you not seeing like certain very simple moves, which, typically in hindsight, once you analyze the game, you're like, this is like the stupidest, simplest tactic I've ever seen. Like, how come didn't I do this? I'm a 2000 player. This is like a 700 level, fork. Like, how do I not notice it? I mean, this is how. Like, this is one of the reasons how.
Right. So there is the psychological aspect to that, but from my experience, it's not only that. Oftentimes, when chess lovers learn chess the conventional way, right, and they do all the puzzles, they study the openings, it helps them improve. But they hit a plateau. Typically, it's around, like, it depends again, but typically it's 1300, 1400, 1500 on chat.com, let's say rapid, and they struggle to improve after that. And the problem for that is, if you listen to our previous episodes, the problem for that is that they skipped the exploration phase, and that can be a big reason for a plateau as well. For example, if you only play one opening, you can learn that opening really well, and you can outperform your opponents there to a certain point. But chess is such a complicated game that you can't dictate the games only using your openings. I mean, sooner or later, the game will deviate to the direction where you'll have to think with your own head, and that happens typically, again, 1500 on, let's say, on chat.com. So the exploration phase, skipping the exploration phase. Do you think it's a big reason for plateaus?
I think it's a bit, also broader than that, because I think a lot of people hit plateau when they're like 500, 600, to be honest. Because like you could see like some people, they play for years and they're still like 600, which is like an average rating on chess.com. So 1500 is already like a very strong player. Is it like top 5% of online players or something like that? So that's already like massive level. And I think, people hit plateaus at all levels, like even 500, from my experience, and it's tricky. So what you described, I would say, is a very common issue where people optimize for the shortcuts. So they basically try to use every single shortcuts that they can find. That in the short term boosts their play. In the long term, it creates many biases that are preventing them from improving. So the question is like, why? Why is it preventing them from improving? And the answer is really simple. Think of learning as simply getting feedback, and you want the feedback to be true. So basically, you do the good thing, you get rewarded. You do the bad thing, you get punished. And that's the core idea. If you have many biases, those biases are pretty much, they act like truths in a sense. So in your mind, you learned a rule, and now you know that you think that the rule is 100% true. So in your mind, that is already the true thing, meaning that no matter how many times you experience it again, in your mind, it's still going to be, the initial belief that you had is still going to remain true. So for example, you think that it's important in open positions to keep a bishop, not a knight, because in open position, everyone told you that bishops were better than the knights. So now, every time you get into position where there is a choice where you keep the knight, you keep the bishop, no matter which choice you make, and no matter what choice is correct at that moment, you're not really going to be getting the feedback in the same way like a player without that rule would. Meaning that no matter whether it was right or wrong, you're not going to get the reward or the punishment. So it's like no matter what happens, your belief is going to stay the same. You could encounter it 100 more times, and your belief is still going to be the same, that bishops are better than knights in open positions. And that's the main issue. So there is a clear mechanisms of feedback. And once you start developing a lot of these bad habits, a lot of these biases, it starts, infiltrating into that mechanisms, and then it starts preventing you from receiving the right feedback. And then over time, more and more of these habits and biases come in, and more and more they damage the feedback to the point where you're unable to receive any feedback anymore. Or even if you are able, like, it's very, very difficult to process it, and you're just constantly fighting against it in some ways. And because of that, you could reach 1,000. And then if you already messed up fully, then you could play for another 20 years and still stay at 1,000. Like, even that is possible. And you could see it a lot especially for players. They're like 1,500, like 1,600, even 2,000. Like, typically most of these players, they reach that level and then they stay there forever. And the main reason is exactly that.
And those
Regarding
rules.
Oh, Misha, just one thing. So regarding the plateau that you mentioned, like we know that it's increasingly more difficult to increase your rating as it gets higher, right? And you know, above the level of 1,000, you only play against players who are pretty serious about their chess, right? You only play against players who, um, by th- by by this time have been playing for like months or even years, and some people you know stay on that level their entire lives. So on earlier levels you play more against people who has less experience, and simply the more time you dedicate towards playing and doing things that interest you uh, in the game, the more experience you have than those players. But above 1,000 or so, it's you need to spend, for example, way more time playing in order to get way more experience than those guys, because they've been playing for a long time themselves, right? And in that sense, the plateau on that level is unavoidable. So some things, in some sense, it is avoidable if you do the right things early on. But in the other sense, it's not avoidable, because yes, that this rating mark is pretty difficult to pass, because you're playing against serious people. And again, as your rating gets higher, it gets even more difficult.
Yes. And the first step to overcoming a plateau is to identify the reason why you're stuck and whether you have a plateau or not. And you can use those indicators that we've described. So don't fix what's not broken. Maybe you haven't hit a plateau. And maybe you're doing all the right things, and you just need to play more, like Pasha just said, to get more experience than your opponents. And it takes time. Takes time to get that experience and get all the right feedback. So that is the first step. But what's the second one?
I'd also say, I'd say that it's very important to keep. I mean, you can't enforce it, but to me, I think the most important thing is to uh, be interested in the game, and not in the results, and be naturally curious for the game and for like outplaying, outsmarting your opponents. That's the big thing. But of course, I understand, and I just remember the funny story from the childhood. I understand that that's not, it's not always like, it's not always the thing you need. You also need to stay competitive. I remember during one of the tournaments when I must have been like 11 or 12 years old. I was not there. My mom was talking to another mom, and there was this guy who was playing, in the tournament, and he just finished his game, and he approached them, and his mom asked him like, "How did you do?" And he said, "Well, I lost." And his mom told him, "But the coach said that you had such a great position. Why did you lose?" And he said, "Mom, like my opponent, he wanted to win so much." And the guy, I don't know if you guys remember this guy. His name was Jan Miller. uh
Yes.
and he was like a very, how to say, bright child. He was a very bright child, funny kid, was not super serious about chess. I'm sure he was curious about the game, but he probably at that point really needed a little bit more of that competitive spirit in that specific game. But yeah, he basically just said that his opponent wanted to win more, you know?
I just remembered the comment that somebody left for our episode about the ratings, that the whole world plays for ratings, or something like that. So I
Yeah.
find it funny. Like, I mean, everybody plays for rating. So let's not be delusional. I mean, we all love the game, but if I lose like 200 points overnight, then I start hating the game.
That's the thing that I have with several of my students. I think like I'm okay with it because I don't want to push people too much. Because I know that some things are easier said than done. But I have to say this, that having multiple accounts to play because you worry about the rating too much on one of them is a bad thing. And that's like for example, for me, that's one of the indicators that you're doing something wrong, for sure, in terms of your mental attitude towards the game. I understand it, and I understand such people, but that's not good. And I'm sure a lot of people do it. And a lot of people have several accounts, and a lot of people delete their accounts, or once they, I don't know, hit tilt and then they create a new one. That's not a good thing, because that means that you worry too much
Mhm.
about the rating. Again, worrying
You
less,
should
easier said than done, but that's one of the indicators.
you should worry about your rating, but to a healthy extent. And another indicator is, to me, is if you play one narrow opening. Most likely it's a gambit. If you play one gambit,
Or
you
London.
will on the London system, then you will get really good at it. But you will suck at all other structures on the game, and you won't be able to explore the game fully. So
But I
that's
think
another
Evgeny,
indicator.
Evgeny, yeah, came up with a very good idea of us, like talking about these things that are indicators to us, right? Because again, we all three of us agree on these things, right? That these are the indicators that something is wrong. And, to our listeners and viewers, this could tell you guys something if we all agree, right? If several experts agree, that's probably a thing. But
Yep.
we may still, all three of us may be wrong, but the likelihood of that, is lower.
We are biased, though. You know all the indicators, right? Let's say you hit a plateau. How to overcome? How to overcome the plateau? How to finally break through? So that's the question that we have to answer.
I think again, as I said earlier, like the first thing is you have to check your mental part and see if there are any issues there, and it's guaranteed that there are going to be some, and try to fix some of that if you can. Then on the chess front, it really depends on like how stuck you are. So again, like it's better to like get an opinion from like a good coach, meaning that someone could be so stuck that the only way for them to overcome the plateau is to basically destroyed everything that I've already built and start learning from scratch. So you just abandon every opening, every pattern, everything that you know, put yourself in a position where everything that you're doing is completely new and challenging, and that will be very painful. But over time, like it will help. But the main thing is, again, typically like what contributes to this chess plateau is introducing many of these rules where you believe certain things to be true no matter the context. So just like the example that I gave earlier where I said like, oh, if the position is open, bishops are going to be better than knights, or like, oh, winning a pawn is somehow like important, or like, oh, you need to fight for the center, you need to castle early, like, oh, I play the king's Indian, and then the king's Indian, like I must promote f5 no matter what. And then as white, I must promote c5 no matter what. And in that other structure, I must do this thing. And I never should push pawns in front of my king. And basically anything that sounds like this or anything, familiar to this is absolutely wrong. And if you rely a lot on these things, that's a huge issue because every position is unique. And those rules are not 100% true, meaning that, some of the time it would actually make sense to push pawns in front of your king, and some of the time the knight would actually be better than the bishop in open positions. So people kind of get it in reverse, where they think that um, they need to like understand the rule to understand the exception. I mean, the first thing, there's no rule, there's no exception. Like, these just don't exist. But also they think that they need to know about such thing as bishop being better than the knight in an open position, and then over time they will get better at like using it. But this isn't really how it works. It's like you just play, you get feedback, and then naturally you become better at it without even like understanding how. And then you look at the position and you know whether the knight or bishop can be better. Like, there's never a moment where I'm playing a game and I'm like, oh, the position is going to be open, so I'm going to prefer a bishop. Like, no, I actually look at all the ideas that the bishop and knight can do. And then after that, once I see that the bishop can do more, I could say like, oh, the position is open, so the bishop can do more. But that's not the reason why I knew that the bishop was better in the first place. It's like, I kind of give you the retrospective analysis of what kind of like happened, because I don't really know what happens in my mind. So the point is that people get those things in reverse, and they think that by simply playing it and getting that feedback, they're not going to be able to, tell and like learn all of these like patterns and all of these things, and that somehow is gonna bring them down. But again, that's not the case.
Those rules are really, really dangerous, because some of them, especially the good rules, are very dangerous because they sound very intuitive and they sound right, and they can actually even help you improve a chess to a certain point, right? But then you'll hit that plateau. And on top of that, like another reason, another way to overcome a plateau can be playing games. Again, it depends on the reason why you're having a plateau. Maybe you're playing enough games, but if you play, let's say, less than few dozens games a month, that's not enough. And I'm talking about online chess. So you gotta play more games. It's as simple as that. Sometimes you focus too much on all the things that are built around playing, like puzzles, openings, YouTube videos, and they give you an illusion that you are improving, but you're not. Like, I mean, it's fun and it's great entertainment, and if you enjoy doing that, you gotta do it. You gotta consume that content, but don't expect to improve at chess. Don't expect to improve your actual chess skill. So that could be another thing that can help you overcome a plateau.
Yeah,
Yep.
and finally, you need to trust your instinct, right? Of course, it's helpful to know some information. So we are here to provide helpful information and tell you guys that plateaus are normal, and everybody hits them at some point, and they can be pretty um, extended in time, and there is nothing wrong with that. So you don't need to worry about that. That's normal. And then the other thing is that, yeah, you need to trust your instinct. If you feel like if you feel like you're doing the right thing, then again, you just know that plateaus are pretty normal and things can get better eventually. If you think that you're doing the wrong thing, um, at the very least, mm, you know that you may still be wrong, about your assumption that you are doing things right or wrong. But then at least if you trust your instincts, your confidence improves.
Yeah, and
Totally.
there's one other thing that I'm gonna add. So I think from my experience, it helped many people. So just switching the time control. I know that we already talked about it in some of like our previous episodes, and we have a whole episode dedicated to bullet. But what I realized is that bullet is something that helps you strip away all that bullshit, meaning that you already have these hundreds and hundreds of biases that you developed by playing these long games and, trying to articulate every single idea to yourself. Then you start playing bullet, and as Mike Tyson once said, like, you have a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? Um, and that's exactly what happens in bullet. You start playing bullet, then you lose, then you cannot even make 15 moves, and you start losing, and then all of these things go out of the window. And what happens to many people is that they actually naturally start overcoming these biases because you play more games, you get more feedback, and then, it becomes very hurtful to lose more and more in a stupid way. So you just stop doing certain things without even realizing. So bullet is the best thing you could actually do for most levels to kind of rebuild yourself from the ground up. So I would say you should watch, because here, like we touched on many things. I don't think we gave like very direct instructions on everything, but that's because we've discussed it in other episodes. So I think 2 episodes for you to watch are the episodes about bullets. And then the other one is like why hard work makes you worse at chess. So like this is where we dive in a bit deeper into like how these biases and like bad habits form and all of that. And in bullet, we, explain why like most of the like conventional myths about bullet are wrong and why like bullet could actually help you. And yeah, we can end where, again, I think that, as Pasha said, you need to trust your instincts, and the mental part is still, I believe, the most important part of the game, and fixing that will be the most useful thing you can do.
And don't forget to subscribe and share your worst plateau in the comments.
And of course, tell us how you overcame it.